the real world, a global community where like-minded individuals work toward achieving their personal goals. Every member receives advanced training and mentoring from our team of experienced industry specialists. Develop essential business skills with the help of our coaches through our online comprehensive education system. Join now. Real Prosperity Financial Freedom Formula. Discover how to become financially free so you don't have to depend on your business, a job, the government, a partner, or anyone else for money. Scan code for the Financial Freedom Formula. 4BK Forbidden Knowledge Shop. Forbidden Knowledge Tours and Workshops. Embark on a journey of discovery with Forbidden Knowledge Tours and Workshops, where history, science, and spirituality merge to unlock the secrets of the universe. Our immersive experiences take you beyond the mainstream narrative, exploring ancient civilizations, consciousness expansion, biohacking, UFO phenomena, and the art of manifestation. Esoteric Store, featuring new esoteric and biohack items. It's a movement, a portal to ancient wisdom, higher vibrations, and deep truths. Awakening minds and expanding consciousness. Scan code to shop now. AI Genius Club. Revolutionary suite of 24 AI-powered apps is designed to automate, optimize, and elevate your success. Whether you're crafting visuals, creating engaging funnels, or generating personalized content, our platform empowers you to excel with ease and precision. Scan code to create magic. Event Raptor, the #1 solution for automating your sales. Attract, nurture, and convert with your ultimate coaching client attraction system. Everything you need to grow your audience, your authority and influence, your sales. Scan to start your automation.
You give everything to others, but who holds space for you? Healing starts with connection. One app, vetted professionals, no ads, just care. You're not alone. You're just one connection away. Holistic healing approach focusing on both individual and community well-being. Download Let's Integrate now and connect with trusted professionals and a compassionate community. Begin your healing journey today. Scan code to download Let's Integrate.
Got it. Beautiful. Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Pain Point Podcast. And this is Nicole, your hostess with the mostest. I do want to say before we start the podcast, yes, we've got to do a little housekeeping. That's how we run a business. Check out the ads because you're going to see a really great ad for the Integrate app on here and go check it out. We're going to find out more about it. Also, check out Event Raptor. If you're a coach or a speaker, you want to get seen and heard, click the link and you can, for free, my friends, sign up so people can either select you and tap you out to speak, or you can find a group of people that have great stages, like myself. A little shout out there. All right, shameless plugs all over. Let's get with it today. So I'm going to welcome my friend Julie here, and we have got to get to know each other through the stage, through the virtual space, which is really, really great. This is a great way for you guys to connect to people. And she lives in the light. So this is great. So welcome, Julie, to the Pain Point Podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Awesome. So we're going to get into it, but I want you to know today on the journey, in your voyage today, we got a pain point. Pain point, if you're a coach, is how do I get business? Where do I work? How do I get seen and heard? Not just a stage, but maybe there's an app that can provide more of a solution for you to connect with the clients that are your soul aligned avatars. So let's get into it because today Julie's going to help solve the problem of how to scale with tech for coaches. So, hey, Julie, would you tell our audience a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I'm Julie Johnson. So, so I kind of run this sort of, multifaceted path, which I think a lot of people do when they find themselves in those summits and these like online spaces. So I have a background in what I would just call digital health innovation. And I also have a background in mind body. I do I have a background in herbs and yoga and, the holistic world. I also have a very extensive several degrees and certifications and, 10, 12 plus years experience in working in accessibility, rehabilitation, technology, engineering, and AI and digital health. So we rolled all that in together. We put all the things together that I've done, and we now have an app called Let's Integrate app, which focuses on offering trauma-informed practices for, I mean, I think almost everybody can benefit from trauma-informed practices, regardless of if you have that history or not. It's for everybody. It's not just for people that have a history of complex trauma or PTSD, but it's for everybody. But specifically, there are certain ways that we provide space, digital and online, that this app is for and is aligned with.
Ooh, so there is a bit of trauma out there, and as light workers, we see it a lot.
Yeah.
We're working on some generational trauma or daily trauma or instance trauma. So you're attracting these people that need those experts in that trauma. So this is kind of like the unicorn of apps. It's app for, it's kind of like, hey, AI for good. We're doing good things, and coaches are global. So healers are global, light workers are global. Hello, we've been screaming that from the rooftops for a long time, that we need to connect, and we need to connect in better ways, not only connect as friends and join our own tribes that we can really feel that we belong to, but also do a little bit of business, because we need to do some energetic exchange and pay those light bills. So it's a little bit hard to say, hey, what do we do if I'm a coach and I'm out there? Who am I looking for? So this is something great to do, and it's called integrate. What a better way to say, hey, we're going to integrate the app, we're going to integrate healing, and we're going to get all these people connected. So this is just so brilliant of something that you do. So when you're taking this and you're saying, hey, what was that moment for you, maybe as a coach? Because you did say, hey, I'm a light worker and I'm going to go to AI. So a few years back, that would have been like, what are you doing? I should be hiding in a cave, because all these, these EMP light rays are going to come get to me, or these sound waves, or these vibes, which there's truth in that, right? And I kid a little bit, but there is some truth in that. And doing this and bringing this in, like, hey, we can mesh this together, because it seems so like it's innovative. It's future forward thinking of how to do that. What was that kind of light bulb moment for you to go, hey, we can merge these two things together?
I'm friends, given my background in somatic and coaching and yoga and all that stuff. I've worked in a lot of yoga studios, and I've worked in a lot of small businesses, and almost all of them had apps. Okay. And I was like, almost all the studios had apps. And I was like, and then I broke out on my own away from that process. And and I was just doing things on Meetup for a while. And I was like, I could do that. Like, one of my best friends opened up a yoga studio, and I was going through her studio app, and I was like, why don't I just do that? So like, because like I was working with, right. I was like, I have all these professionals that we put like on a list, and I know how to work in a studio. I know how to put it onto, like, I know the role and how it, like, this works, but like, why can't we do it? Oh, we can. I was like, so that was kind of my moment where I was like, this is actually a really good practice to think a new model of thinking of how coaches can begin to, at least for integrate, how we can begin to scale with technology, inspired by some of the same systems we've been influenced by, whether it's Pilates studios or yoga studios, mind body app or whatever, but make it resonate with what our messaging and help our own business is, instead of having to run through, someone else's business. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Because
Yeah.
here we can solve a problem right here, right now.
Right.
This is what you can do, and you can say, hey, and was this like a big, like, you don't have to go with exact numbers, but was this like a huge, like, I know I have a friend, I don't know if you're familiar with like Shri and Kira of Tosa Blue Mountain. They're in Ecuador, right? They've got this retreat. They put an app together years ago, and they were saying, oh, it's $20,000 just to get this app out the door. And so I would assume at least 5 to 10 years later that this cost isn't that horrendous.
No, no. So now with the world of like health and wellness technology and these yoga studios wanting to have like a lot of this happened when a particular um a particular app, okay? So a lot of these apps that yoga studios were using got really, really expensive, right? And this rise of branded apps has begun for yoga studio, Pilates studios, movement studios. And so the rise of the branded app started probably about 2021, 2022. Okay, where people were like, okay, we're done with these wellness apps where I just am like a cog in a wheel and I pay them all this money and I'm with all these other studios, what if we broke out? And so all these developers started being like figuring out how to make these, the apps that would have cost $20,000 affordable for coaches and yoga studio owners to have their own branded, or now it's for us, for, in entrepreneurs, to be able to do it on their own so they could get their brand out there and scale so people knew their name, not I'm going to be in this app. Hopefully my name gets seen and my classes get seen. And, you know, that was kind of the old model, 2016 to 2021.
Yeah, because in 2018, my spidey senses started kicking up. Like here goes the change that I've seen since a kid. That's a whole different discussion of the stuff that I've seen since I was a child. But but the thing is that here it's coming. I want to get out of the business that I'm doing in corporate Americas because it became very corporatized. But to come into that and say, hey, there were some apps that were out there. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go into coaching. I'm going to do this more as a business, not just like once in a while, take a phone call, have a neighbor or a friend, whatever. I'm going to go find this tribe. Not the best decision at the time, but there was a lot of apps that came through, whether you're a psychic or you were a coach or you did tarot, whatever. I did the whole aromatherapy certified, this, that, herbalism, everything, right? I got that laundry list of stuff. Like we all go through that moment. And then I got my Reiki and, on and on and on and on. But so there was all these apps and these people were like, yeah, if you get on this app, you pay us monthly to get on this app. But, and I heard you saying earlier, like you can't be found. Nobody can find it. Nobody knows about the app. Nobody's going to download the app. And then there's like 6,000 people that don't even work the app. They should be taken off because nobody's going over to it to scale and say, hey, this person's no longer working with us, or this person, nobody wants to go through any training. And it's just such a disservice to a loving tribe of people that want to heal. And you're getting lost in the sauce.
Exactly.
So how does that differ? Because you did say, hey, if you look into this, this is for this community where you can get found and heard, which I do love that you're on the podcast, you get on the stage. So you are giving some brand awareness there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, so for Integrate, for my purposes, so Integrate is a platform that trains coaches and human care providers, as we just lump everybody together, like you just said, and we teach you how to have like those interpersonal skills to support people that have been through traumatic grief, things like that, right? Because there's lots of times we understand. I always say, lots of times we know the craft, but sometimes we don't know how to deliver it to the person in front of us. Okay. And that we teach those skills. So it doesn't matter what your background is. You could do Reiki, you can have herbs, you can get all the things. You got to be able to transmute your, your gifts of the world in a way that's human centered. And that's also a technology, right? And so we train those skills on our platform. And that was like the first thing we started doing. That we did that for 9 years up until whatever, 8 months ago, we launched the app. So that's the first thing we did. And I was like, and I was noticing, I was like, okay, if we're training them and we're in this group together and we're all like doing this work together, I want a place where people can see them and they can see their talents and they can also scale. And when I say I don't scale. So they're contracted providers, but I try to bring in things that they're doing, okay, on the app. So it's not just what Integrate is doing. It's a network, right? It's called Integrate Network. So it's not, I literally bring in whatever they are doing on their websites. We'll put it in one of our resources on the app, right? One of our detail cards. So that way they can be seen by people who could hire them separately. So it's integrate doesn't get like they can just be like, oh, I liked Jenna's meditation. Okay, I'm gonna go see Jenna. Okay, so we don't get anything off the top. It doesn't go through us. It goes straight to them. Does that make sense?
Oh, I love that because, you know, first it's the mentorship. And years ago, even if you watch TV, years ago, your mentor, whether it was karate, you were mastering that, you wanted to become a yogi, you were psychic, you know, maybe you were family trained, or there was some big psychic in the village or something somewhere, you know. There is mentorship, apprenticeship, and that's long gone. It's gone in security. Unfortunately, it's gone in security and law enforcement too, which is just so bad anywhere. Because how do you learn? You
Right.
learn it's like diet. Oh, you know, my family, it's in my DNA. No, it's just the culture in your home, the food you eat, how
Right.
you sleep, what kind of car you drive. That is such a your village, your community, your tribe really talks about, you know, really says everything. You can really, it's a telltale sign of how that person is living truly for the
Absolutely.
most part of it, because you could average that out. That's just data itself.
Totally.
But when you give that mentorship, you know, and I don't want to see anybody hurt.
Yeah.
I don't want to see more trauma caused, because if you're in a victim or sadly enough a triggered stage, because I work with a nonprofit. Let me just give this as an example. I'm a chairwoman of the nonprofit Confronting Domestic Violence. The
Mhm.
last thing I want to do is re-victimize a victim.
Right.
So I want them to have post-traumatic growth and success for a lifetime, because we move them
Right.
from point A to point B, but then we also try to give them some tools and training of emotional intelligence and how to run some tips on business and people you could talk to, so you could do business virtually. Because,
Totally.
you know, because now you can do business from anywhere, and you don't have to have a car. You don't have to
Mhm.
go into a business and worry about somebody showing up. So really, if you go back to this as a coach, then they're getting mentored, and you give them the ability of saying, hey, this is not Amazon. You can only sell your stuff here on our page. You're giving
Right.
them ability to actually make money, get seen and heard, and take care of their client long term.
Right.
So it's not, you're not encouraging a one and done, because that's what a lot of these coach apps do, is like you're going to get a percentage. So people are going to, like, if they go for a psychic reading, which people don't know, it's like you pay $2 a minute, and the psychic gets like 10 cents out of that $2 from that minute. So they make 50 cents to $5 a call. That's it's in volume. So it doesn't make the connection better. So I think that you're giving in such a loving space the sense for them to really connect to their clients and to
Hmm.
do good, because it is an energetic space. I really like that.
Abs
That's go ahead.
Oh, no, 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 go ahead. No, I mean, and absolutely, and I think that that's also something, that's different than like, okay, well, how does that work than like an online like yoga space? Well, we don't, we want you to go to Jenna or Sari or whoever. We want you to go to them for their business. You know what I mean? We'll help be the portal. You can pay for like when you sign up for a yoga class, like you pay us, but for ongoing like connection, you pay them. You know what I mean? You're
Right.
you're you're with them. So if you do one yoga class with Jenna and you love Jenna, well then, you can go hang out with Jenna. You know what I mean? Like in her classes. That's the point is that we're trying to get our facilitators to build up their clientele because they did this training, because they did that extra work, right? So we want to reward that extra emphasis on taking the time to do that training, be with other people that are also in network with each other doing that because we're practicing all together. We're practicing relationally. We're practicing how because we don't like we call it the affinity group, and those are the people that you see on our app. We don't want things to be transactional. We actually want to be relational with each other because we're like, okay, it's one thing to like perform these trauma informed skills that are we say perform safe spaces or perform safety, and then you're not safe with each other interpersonally because we all know how that is in the workspaces, right? You're like, that was really great. I did that for my clients, but I cannot do that for you. And I actually have a very close working relationship with you. So
People, it does, it becomes transactional, and thank you for sharing that, because people forget, and coaches, I love my coaches, but I went through this personally, and I know I attract a lot of clients that that do this. So I always use myself as an example. That way I don't have to give somebody away. But going back into coaching, my clients were stolen from me. I mean, I sent them down in an event 2 feet down. And I don't say this in an angry way. I say this in, please, I want you guys to really take care to do your data and your research who you're working with.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be in such a trusting, loving space because trust does not come to me very easily.
Right.
So having somebody 3 feet away from me take a sale and then take a client and then book a client a different day at an event, which we were supposed to do like tarot readings that day or some energy work real quick. But that means that if they booked them a week later in a facility, they got that transaction and I lost out on about nine people. So, and I never want to see this on anybody else. So and to say that is like, look, coaches, I love coaches, but if we do not take care of the people we work with, you don't want to be an employee, please don't act like an employee.
Yeah.
Don't stab other people in the back. It's not healthy as a coach. There's karma, but sometimes it takes a little while for karma to do its thing.
Right.
But we don't want to cause pain where if somebody's trying to do good and you hurt them, they'll never want to do good again. And you know, so we're not re-victimizing the people that we're healing, and we're not victimizing or being bad caregivers or good you know, tribes or communities for other people. We want to really lift them up, and this is how you do it. And the other thing is that you start to understand that it is business. So if this works here on the app and you can tell somebody, maybe somebody's looking at, hey, I've got post-traumatic growth or some PTSD that we want to do in coaching, and then they can coach them long time. And that person can also use the app for other things and connect with other people, because you do want, sometimes it takes a little bit to pick and choose who you vibe with, especially if you're coming into yoga for the first time or breath work or anything like that. And you want to dabble a little and go, I kind of like this. Let me find somebody. We always have hoppers though. And I think that's going to get eliminated in the sense you fulfill that. People fulfill that because they like to go from practitioner to practitioner. It happens. So it gives them an ability to kind of get a sample, maybe a buffet.
Right. Right. And you know, so like that's what I would say. Like, so with the app, like you can use it a couple different ways. So like, you know, people just because we try to get it, the way that I piece together the content is that we do like one theme per month. So that way you're getting to know at least 2 to 3, at least 2 providers that really, really can hone in on this topic. So like this month we're doing grief. Okay. So you're going to get to know. So if you look at our app right now, everything is about grief. Okay. And we get to know our practitioners that really can hone in on grief. Right. So that would be Carla and Sari. And we did 2 podcasts with them. And you can see those on the app now. And then we're having a workshop starting next week, June 28th, which will probably be after this is like, this will probably be done by the time it's aired. But the point is that we try to make it so you get to know people each month in a really deep way. So it's not just go to their classes. Our content, the way we frame it is so you can get to know these different people featured each month in our spaces, you know, on our social media by having a monthly theme, you know, and different people will come to the table and will take up space in our social media so you can get to know them too. Does that make sense?
I love that, because you're helping market the coaches that want to market for you. Because if you don't get that, and this is a great way in a sense, you know, it's kind of like affiliating, right? You're affiliating and you're collaborating with someone. You know, business terms, I know, but we want to look at it as like a business so it can be sustainable. So you can travel, go do yoga in, maybe you want to go do yoga in India, or you want to travel to a retreat in the Bahamas. If you work online and you have an app, you can either work from anywhere or you can schedule when you come in. So if you're not grief month, but you're the next month,
right?
Maybe it's breath work month or something,
right?
Then you know that you're getting ready to launch that next month, and so you can really get that focus and that mindset, and that's so good for business.
And that's really what we're trying to do, is really get it so people really see and we really can hone in because no, so it's not everybody's online at the same time. You know what I mean? So like this week it's grief. We probably won't circle around to grief again for another 6 months. You know what I mean? Next month it's self-compassion. You know what I mean? And we're going to be talking through a self-compassionate talk and how we do that, you know, with Katie Kurtz. Um, and that's a whole different group of people, you know, that kind of focus on that lens of self-compassion through all these different lenses, you know? So it's nice to have that. So then everyone kind of shares the spotlight, and then everybody, and then different people, different providers who or users of the app for like more of a care perspective can then, we attract different people. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, because and the other thing is there's two things here. So that practitioner that's coming in for the month of grief, they can launch their membership, they can
Right.
launch their packages, they can
Right.
launch their website, they can get a funnel ready, all that
Yeah.
really boring techie stuff. Pay $20, have somebody help you get it together, or take your time to get it
Yeah.
together, detach and give it to someone else if you're too
Mhm.
attached to how everything the outcome. But this way you can prep to launch even at a
Right.
small fee. Now you're officially the solopreneur. Now you've got the business ready ahead of time, you've did all the creative work, and now you can totally shine, and you guys are supporting them. The other thing is that's great too here is for clients.
Right.
They will not get overwhelmed with, oh God, I need a practitioner for this, I need a
Mhm.
practitioner for that. Or they could say, you know what, I'm not feeling this vibe, or hey, gosh, I've been waiting for this. Thank you so much for putting this out there. We do that when we have confronting domestic violence. We're doing more groups, and we're doing more webinars
Right.
with them, more kind of like workshops. We do webinars, we do workshops, and we're bringing in groups because
Mhm.
we'll have to talk further about this because maybe there's a way we can and work into this.
Mhm.
But we bring people in because we want to do the coaching with them. We want to raise money, we want to give somebody something, but everybody's got a story or needs to talk about something, and you never know who's going to show up. And it works just divinely who's showing up and how they're showing up, and that they can be in a safe space. Because
Totally.
if they come in on Zoom, we let them come in an avatar. We held our first summit for that in virtual reality. So
Oh
people
yeah.
who could come on camera, they had a safe space, or they weren't ready for camera, or your kids, we identify you, we close it down, lock it down, so nobody's just bombing in there.
Mhm.
But you can, how much easier is it to show up if you want? You can show up in human that looks like you, or show a little bubble above your head because it's on
Mhm.
spatial platform. You don't have to have the gear. It's not expensive. You come in free because you're our guest.
Right.
So, it's these are just so many awesome ways. I get so excited. Like my super nerd kicks off. Yes, I know I stood in line behind 400 people at Star Trek. I'm such a nerd. Um, on the premiere. So this stuff is coming here. This is the
Yeah.
stuff we were talking about. We had a bit of a conversation about that to say, hey, we are in that time. This is the time. We've got portals opening up in Silicon Valley for whatever business they're doing. You got CERN doing its thing. We got weather manipulation, and some of it's for good because people can get rain, and you can re-terraform the earth in some places that are
Right.
full of sand. So if we look at, instead of fear porn, and
Right.
people start to change, was this a big challenge for you to change? I think it's a lot of education that we need in a how. and
Yeah.
and I love what you're doing because it doesn't happen overnight, to share with people how wonderful this creation is. And if we do AI for good, we're sprinkling the good juju in, and it's not Facebook just digging in our business. Do it in a safe
Abs
manner.
Absolutely. And I think that that's really the big, I mean, that's really the big draw for for why we did it was, for me, I was like, I just really want a space. So, because I mean, every time we talk to a professional, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I talk to a human care provider or a coach who's like, oh, I'm taking a social media break. Well, you don't
Mhm.
have to. Like that's it. If you build up, and this could be like a whole other podcast,
I
but
know.
like if you build up your users in your app, this is my goal, by the way. This is like totally my goal. By the end of 2026, I want to be off of Facebook, okay? But I'm giving myself until the end of 2026 to get all my users on the app using it, so I don't have to do that. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like manipulating the big Facebook, you know, thing we have, but we have a plan to get off of it and to get people into a safe enough space where we don't have to do that anymore. Or maybe someone will buy a Facebook and make it less, like, not great, but like less, like, maybe a little bit more more tech for good. That's also a
Well,
hope too.
yeah, there are a few platforms, but what I notice is that, and guys, I went through a moment. I mean, I was born in Silicon Valley, and talk about conspiracy theory. That was innate in my DNA. It still is. And there's reasons for that, even before 2020. So, the fact that, the chip, they're going to force a chip into us, and we're going to do this, the robots are going to take over the world, that whole thing. But for me, it was really at the time when a friend had introduced me to something like virtual reality. I was like, I get what it does, but what can I do with it besides play games? I have zero patience. I couldn't even get through Pong half the time for 5 minutes.
Hmm.
So, we're just talking, two sticks and a ball. How hard is that? But I couldn't stay. We had the first Atari with Tank and that whole nine, but we had to program the MS-DOS. So it was just like this whole weird thing about going from how difficult even the fax machine was, because it was a 7-foot table with a phone, that you had to actually do things with it. And so going to the ease of what it was just kind of boring and weird for me. But to get into it where it made sense for business.
Hmm.
And when someone started saying, hey, you can make business off of this, because I went through a lot of people who were making thousands of dollars a day on Facebook, and then Facebook just shut them down, and they forgot to get phone numbers and emails. Why would you not have a secondary way to get a hold of somebody? Bad business. I don't know. You work for corporate America. I have no idea why you would do that. But especially with the way we can get data from people, but it controlled that. And so when we have platforms like this, and we do our due diligence now, and we curate those people, and we're not just doing a one and done service, we're building continuity with our clients to have a relationship, so we can have referrals. And people will want to connect to us. They will want to like us. They will look for us. They will find us because we are solid in our business, and we are doing really truly the good things that we're meant to do, and we do a positive form of business. And if we all learn in that coaching sense and the woo sense to do ethical business, even if you're talking about just other types of businesses as an entrepreneur, if we do more of that and we regenerate it, we're not just changing one person, we're changing millions.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
and it's such a larger scale, and you don't have to duct tape 14 different tools together to do this, because if it's energy work, you don't need much.
Yeah.
So it's just so incredible, and you can scale without the burnout, so you can give it a try. But the other thing is when people are doing this, it's really, you're giving a power.
Hmm.
People are out there, and I see it all the time. They're begging for power. They're begging to get their power back. I think that's and there's a lot of victimizing of the self as a whole. And if we just stop for a second and look, where can I have control of my own life?
Hmm.
And you're bringing back the control, especially for the business. And Michio Kaku said this. I don't remember his exact quote, but he talked about this years ago. In this time of AI, in this time of computers, in this time of virtual reality, we need to be ingenuitive, and we need to look for other ways to be creative, which we all are, and find our own business model. So how easy does this become when you're like, hey, here's the time of grief. Here's my business launch. Here's my membership. Just simply maybe one or two things. Here's a coaching package, very simple. And then you can fill in all the blanks. And then you launch this, you have a business, you have Zoom, you have a phone. You don't have to spend as much time on social media. But you can curate, like you were saying earlier, curate the audience and to say, oh, wow, now I can do this with so much support, and you don't lose support. And I think that the part of the pain right now too is that we feel so disconnected, but this gives us the way to connect, and it doesn't negate personal touch, doesn't negate your community and your friends.
Yeah, not at all.
So how do is there like, well, when coaches come to you and they're like, hey, I want to be on the app, what does that look like when you're making a selection for them? Because you did say you do mentorship. Does that help you? Do you find with a mentorship that people kind of self-select to stay?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had that before. We've had people that are like, okay, I totally want to be on it. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a training. and and then there's an assessment just to make sure you're applying the training appropriately, you know, because have a background in instructional design, and so I know what it's like to just train and we call whatever is it, just get through things and have absolutely no behavior change, and that is the exact opposite of how I don't write that. So we wrote it so you actually had to apply it, and then there's a whole generalization of skill development, right? So like just because you took a course or training, that I would like you to be in a space where you're generalizing it socially. All right. So I've spent enough time with people that just click boxes, and I'm a click boxer too. That's how I take courses. So I know I'm calling myself out here too, because I'm like, I need that too. Um, because I know. I know how I take courses, and I know how to not do that too, like when I write it.
Do all of the above.
Right. It's like I do it all. I write, I'm like, I know I shouldn't do that. I wouldn't write it that way, but I'm doing it. But yeah, so we do have people sometimes that do approach us, and they're like, okay, I want to be on the app. And I'm like, okay, well, we have like the way we work is there's this process. And usually like that's kind of like the first wave of vetting. So because some people just want to show up with their, whatever their practice is, they want to make their money and go. And that is not our model. That is not our model. Our model is you're gonna come, you're gonna learn a little bit about, because I'll get here a second. So, you're gonna come, you're gonna learn, and then you're going to have this community of supportive people that have already been here, and we're going to learn how to do this work 3D publicly and interpersonally. Okay. The model that why we created that model is because there was something that was broken in the current wellness industry, obviously. So there's always, a reason we got here, right? And what doesn't work for trauma-informed practices and for what we're doing is a transactional culture. I'm going to come in, I'm going to hold space, I'm going to take money and go, and I have no connection to anybody else around me. Okay? We like that's the solopreneur like mindset is I'm going to take because I need to make money because life's expensive and we live in, the world we live in. And I'm not really connected to anybody around me that's also doing this work. Okay. Like that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a season sometimes where you have to do that. Okay. But it's not sustainable long term. And it's certainly not sustainable in the kind of work I do. We do.
And really, thank you for saying that, because it's like, and that's why we like to keep certain things simple and straightforward, because it's very important not to mix words. And as creatives, I'm one of them, so I'm calling myself out. It's your 3-year-old self wants to be like, well, it's a fluffy pink rhinoceros, bird, dog, cat, fluffy animal, fairy. And you want to have all this really cool stuff in the name, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. And are we connecting it? And are we talking in the same language? So we have to meet people where they are. And when you draw it out quite simply and detach and come back and say, hey, this is what we're doing and this is what we expect of you. We have to be adults in the room because we're talking people's lives, their energy, their DNA. You want to make changes and leave a good footprint. You don't want to do more harm, even accidentally. So plan for it. It does take time. You're not a shaman overnight. That's why it takes years of practice. You have to practice more than just banging on your drum. And, I'd pull mine out, but I dried it. It got into the heat too much in travel. So unfortunately it unraveled or cracked. And I looked at it because it was like this deer skin drum that I handmade, which I was so proud of, but I didn't take care of it. So I look at it like, that's a reflection of me. I'm not taking care of myself. So I am not in the moment to take care of other people.
Right.
So we have to look at that, and you're not doing anyone favors, and it's not a one night stand. You're looking at a long-term relationship. Don't just swipe right, but get more into a longer term relationship. And if you're like out there going, oh my gosh, nobody's loved me, nobody's paying attention. Well, how did you nurture that seed?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think lots of times what we get, because there's a lot of trauma trainings out there, there's a lot of trauma informed trainings out there. And lots of times people, what I usually get is, well, I already did this training. I'm like, well, that's great. From a brand and business standpoint, though, do you go to somebody else? And I had to really whittle myself down to this, but it's true. It's from a business angle. Do you go to, like, let's say you're at one company, you did a bloodborne pathogens training, okay? Because everybody always has to do a bloodborne pathogens training somewhere in the world. But we're like, well, I did this company's bloodborne pathogens, so I don't have to do yours anymore. Okay. Same deal. Like, well, we have certain protocols in this company where we about bloodborne pathogens that isn't that company's.
Right.
So like that's kind of the mindset that we come from, but we used to have people come in and be like, well, I did this person's sprint. I already have a background in trauma informed training, so like I can be on the app. Well, but that was there for that person's brand and for that their ethics. This is ours. And so we really had to it really took us a while to kind of come to that place because I used to be a lot more like open about it, but after really looking at the skills and like really nailing down interpersonal skills that we needed, we really need people to actually have these interpersonal skills to be able to do it because that's on brand for us and that's a part of our business, right? So it was fair, it was being fair to us too.
Well, it's fair to you, but it can get litigious.
Yeah.
Who wants to be sued, first of all? Who's paying for that fee? Secondly, we don't
Right.
want you to close down, because if you close down the brand, the other coaches that are really doing the good job are sacrificed at the hand of one person doing something a little bit silly. But
Yeah.
if you think a whatever 30-minute or 4 hour, whatever the requirement is that you guys do of a bloodborne pathogen, when you can just scroll and click the
Yeah.
boxes, is hard to do because you're doing it probably online. Try it for 2 days once a year at least, just for first aid. We had to do that, and it changed a little bit. So we had to do our training all the time. So we
Right.
had to do tactical training, and we had to do first aid training. And well, I loved it. I know. I'm not putting it down, but when you look at this, if I have to take the training consistently, it's a perishable skill. If I don't take it, we lose the
Mhm.
memory. It's
Mhm.
kind of like a muscle memory. Are you doing it? It's a habit, it's a ritual. Get
Right.
into it. If I'm doing it and you're doing it and the next 12 people are doing it in the group, we all have the same exact mindset, and we can all support each other, knowing that I can fall back on you. Hey, I have a question about this training. Hey, can I get some support on this trainer? Hey, you have a different mindset when the
Mhm.
people that you work with are your sisters and brothers in your tribe, and you know that they have your back. You know that everybody's got training and data, and there's always that one person that's got a little bit more that you can learn from and become your mentor. And that's super important. Instead, you're pulling people up and you're scaling and you're leveling up. Now you could be the boss babe, or we can all pull each other down and say, I don't really need it.
Right.
Well,
Right.
tell your 7-year-old self, do I really have to? I know, because I see myself doing that sometimes when I say things. So I think it's very important to do that. And then now we have a better business mindset of why we have to do this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's yeah, and I think it's really important because you brought up a good point there that, the big thing in our affinity group is when we say something and we're like, okay, remember this is something we're working with. And in every year I make January every year we always make everybody, we don't make you retake it like you did the first time, but we make everybody go through the content, you know? And so and at least write like what's something new that they learned, you know what I mean, within something just like a refresher. You know what I mean? Like I've done a lot of crisis training. I did like a 16-hour one, and then like I have to do like a 4-hour refresher. We do that just because it's a practice, right? Like, and it's a practice for me. I just wrote an email today on one of our skills that we offer. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a really good reminder for like grief, that this communication skill works for grief too. I mean, like it's always something that you're thinking through, And I think anytime we start to be like, well, I know that. Well, you know it, but have you practiced it with other people in a while? Probably not.
Mm. Exactly, exactly. So that perishable skill means that you lose it or you forget about it over a period of time. And sometimes when you learn that skill or you learn a little bit something different, maybe you forgot one or two things and you go, okay, that's a great refresher to say, hey, all right, I get that. I understand why it's here. And maybe I have a different mindset. So you can apply that skill somewhere else. So if we had something called verbal judo. And basically what that was the way to talk to people, the way to talk to people in a way that you can bring that trauma of that heightened emotion down. There's nothing like coming to somebody in a moment of pain and in the middle of tragedy.
Right.
As a coach, you get them kind of after a fact where they're kind of still attached to it. But when
Right.
you get them at that exact crisis moment and you have to walk it back of what happened, there's a way that you talk to somebody in a trauma mode. And when you get things like that at this, as a coach, then, you get to understand their body language, the way that they're walking or talking or standing, or, are they in a really upset posture? Are they happy and okay and accepting? And then you take that and you pivot it to coaching and you go, okay, maybe this person is a little bit trauma and I can work some little charismatic language or calming, loving language. It's just a different way to pivot it. And when we start to look at the skills that we have as a whole, we can practice that. And that's just being
Right.
prepared for someone else's crisis.
And it's interesting because I actually modeled this training off of CPR. I modeled it because I used to write CPR trainings. And so I modeled it off of that same model where it's like, okay, where I'm not going to overwhelm you with things, but I just need you to listen to these like cognitive trauma, like DBT, CBT cognitive practices that our social worker on our affinity group uses in her work. And then the communication skills that support that, right? That like transcend that consciousness, right? And that's really all we do. And it was like, and you can write a script or you can make a video, depending on what it is. And it's interesting to me because we had several girls walk through it, and really it only took, I think, 3 weeks is really what, if you like the self-paced version is what it took if you really like got through it, in a quick way, like and so it like we and that was the whole point was that it doesn't have to be like it could be 2 to 3 weeks you can be done, with
Right.
it really on the self-paced level. And then we have a live cohort version that we do for people that want to get through it with more of a little more steady pace, where like you have timelines and you got to get through in 4 to 6 weeks, with the assessment. And I appreciate that for some people that start to take it, we give the self-paced version, we give them up to 6 months to complete it. But most people want to get it done quickly because they want the competency, they want the certificate, and they want to move. Um, and and either version requires us to also generalize those together, because it's one thing, again, because this is new for a lot of people to have to
Yes.
sit down, unless you're in leadership coaching or not even career coaching, leadership development really is what this is. I was like, really, unless you're a leadership coach or executive coach or done something like that, you probably haven't had a lot of this stuff, this training. And it takes a practice to do it, and it takes conflict. Like I
It
can't tell
does.
you how many times I'm like, but I know, like when I was like like years ago, I used to be like, I know conscious communication, I know all these things, and then like I would get in a fight and I'd like reverberate back to like a very like I think my inner 7-year-old to be there. I'm like, I have the skills to do this, but I have to practice being in conflict for my adults to come to the table.
Yes, yes. And sometimes we don't realize what it's not maybe physical or conflict, but maybe it's a different version of it. And when you're not practicing it in its simplified form, or with other people having the conversation, then you forget, and that's where it perishes. And you forget, I didn't really practice it. I haven't been talking to people. I don't have a relatability any longer. I didn't need it, so I put it in a file and packed it away in my soul somewhere. And it's there. And there is a lot of people in these last couple of years that really talked about, well, I'm a soul-led leader. And with my background, there's that vision for me of George's, Patton doing that, being the general, or, Sun Tzu, being a leader. Or in business and corporate America, there are different CEOs, and there's a lot of people that put out there, I'm a CEO. Well, if you don't really have leadership skills or understand truly what leadership is, and you try to change that terminology, leadership is very black and white at its core. Mm-hmm. Because you have to be the foundation, you have to be the strength, you have to be able to detach, and you have to be able to lead a team, whether that's a team of you, yourself, and you, me, myself, and I.
Right.
Or it's your team of, maybe you're the mom or the dad of the family, or you're a team and you have employees. You have to be able to say, no, that doesn't work, and here's why, or yes, that's a good idea, and here's why. You have to be able to substantiate the reason you made a decision, whether it's to you or your team. And are you holding yourself accountable, and is the team holding you accountable? And in order to do that, we're all over the place if we don't have it. And then you're losing your business. You don't have income coming in. Somebody may be charging you an extraordinary amount of money, or people just you didn't delegate the task maybe to a VA to get the CRM complete. And you didn't say, hey, I need this done. I need these emails set up and scheduled within 30 days, because this is where we're having our event. This is where we're having our launch. If you're not a good leader and you don't do oversight, not micromanaging, don't get the diva out, but the leader is not a diva. The leader is the strength to be able to talk to their subordinates and say, hey, I'm going to delegate to your strength. Right. If you're a great Reiki master, you're the Reiki and master that trains everybody. If you're a good ballerina, you can stand on your toe shoes for hours at a time and you have great stretches. Good. If you're a guru yogi person and you've been doing this for years, that's your strength. And now you're going to teach people. If you're decided you're going to be a yogi and you just put stretch pants on, that doesn't make you a yoga instructor. And I just say that because, that way you can get that kind of picture. So on a higher scale of leadership, we tend to, that's the CEO is the one we want to get rid of always. Well, why do you think they get the bonuses? They get the bonuses because they did the good job. They not only maybe saved money or stayed within the budget, but they expanded the business. So if you're selling t-shirts and it costs you more to make the t-shirt, it costs you $10 and you're selling them for $5, you're not doing anybody good business. So you're not leading the way. So in leading the way is not just being creative or having a forethought or being a wayward individual, is really coming in to say, hey, I can help you in the structure. So it's really the experience, the mental fortitude. Right. You're not the 3-year-old in the room having a temper tantrum because something didn't work. We've all had that. Throw the phone across the room. Everything's gone awry. We've all had those moments, and respect. But if it's a continuous, the triggers and the trauma are continuous, at what point do you get the health and or the services that you need? And this is where that app comes in to build that and to say, hey, if I take care of me, I take care of my home, then I take care of my neighborhood, and my neighbors will buy into my business. And so there's a huge scope that gets forgotten a lot in that business. And thank you for sharing that there is the training, because if you do successful and your team wants to succeed with you, if you fail, they take breaks, they go outside. Think of the bad cubicle, you're complaining about the boss. You didn't get in this business to be an employee.
Right.
And you want strengths. And when you show that, it starts to come really easy in your decisions and your focus, and you have the continuity of being thankful, and everybody's thankful. And, you know, especially whether it's coaches or colon hydrotherapy or what you know, yoga or exercise or fitness, if there's a battle internally, the business goes to the wayside, and then you lose everybody's support, and then you wonder why clients are coming in, because they feel that, just like your kids or your dogs feel that energy. People feel that, and they want you to be the good person. That doesn't mean you have to be smiley all the time, but it means that you have to be the good, loving person.
Absolutely. And I think, it's interesting you say that because I mean, I was just thinking about this the other day. I was like, man, I'm so grateful that, Integrate has that backbone. People all understand our value system because I mean, I've been in a couple of situations in this year where I was in some itchy situations, with people I love and I work with, but what's tying us together? The training we did. Because we know what's the backbone. Okay. Does it make it comfortable? Yeah. Does it make me want to have space for a couple, whatever extended period of time sometimes? Yeah. But at the end of the day, like we have the mojo, in these, situations, like we're at a success rate of both of them, where both of the situations are coming together and we've done the skills. We've tried and true. We've tested again that we have it, but we're coming from that common understanding. And this is why we all do the training, is because when something happens or there's a misstep somewhere on someone's end or both ends or everybody's, we all own our stuff. We all have a common process. And we write this into our protocol too, that we're like, okay, we know this is very trauma too. We know when something happens that there's a process we're going to go through. It can take 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. I don't know, however long it takes. But we have a process and people know where we're going. Does that make sense? Versus what used to happen before we built this in was there'd be conflict and people would be like, I don't know what to do. Like there's no, unless you've been through leadership training or like Brene Brown's training, which I went through, like there's no real roadmap on how to come back through that. So as entrepreneurs.
Well, 100%. And then you lose it. You don't want to be, how many coaches quit because they paid too much for some type of training they never got. They were just there for 3 years down the road, still choosing their why. Or they could have gotten everything off of YouTube, or the person just, they weren't at the place they needed to be to take the course. Maybe the course was too much, or they just weren't ready, or something. It just wasn't the moment. Then you can't be in business because you've lost all your money. Now you can't pay your bills. So now you don't want to coach, and then you lose coaches. And
Right.
it's with this integrity that not only are you servicing your clients, but you are being an integral part of society to uplift society and to teach the leadership and the skills that we should all have right now. We should all be in a healthier space to respect everybody where they're at instead of fighting all the time. And that's a huge part of what I think what you do is, when people have structure, when they're able to understand that they're passionate beings and they're meant to be happy and sad and angry, but there's ways to have a healthier outlet, then when we do that, then it grows and people see that. They want to be around that more often. They're not lost in the sauce and floating around. Now they have the strength, they have the blueprint. And when you do that, just like if you had a mentor and you're a shaman and you are, you're in a tribal moment, maybe you're not in the States, you're somewhere else, really back in the day, it took years to do this, that you were learning about herbs, that you were hiking, or, in the Appalachian Mountains, if you're an herbalist and you're digging the mountains, you're wildcrafting every day, you learn all the trees and the herbs, what the plant looks like, where to get it, what's the healthiest state to get it in, how to use it for a poultice or a salve or something like that. It was innate in you at all times. So when you're sharing that, then you have that ritualistic steps of not only the training, but the continuity of practicing it all the time, all the time, all the time. And so you're getting better at it. Things are coming easy. You can heal faster. You don't have to bring people through a 12 months course when you can heal them in 30 days or teach them skills in 30 days. Maybe they want something for 12 months, and that's okay too. But you can heal them faster because you have taken the long process to do that. And the client, I think, would reward you. I find that the client's going to reward you longer term, or even on a higher ticket, and they're going to be true to you, and they're going to refer you to other people because you've done the right thing.
Absolutely. And to bring this, full circle, because we started out with people's relationship technology, because here we are going to the AI. It's that work we also have to do with ourselves with technology too. Now, technology doesn't have a repair process, but like they may not be, well, I guess AI can validate you, but it's us still doing it. We still have to do that process. And I think like it comes full circle, right? That's work that we do with each other is also have this new element now, which is what we're working with at Integrate, is okay, we do all this work as humans with each other in these apps or with each other in our affinity groups through Slack, because we have a Slack channel. We're multiple, no, Slack channel. We have a whole Slack group. We have a Slack group. We do this work most of the time digitally with each other because a lot of us are remote. We live around the United States or internationally. Okay. And now we're being asked to take that connection piece to a next level of how do we take all this interpersonal work and put it into, for accessibility reasons and mental health purposes and affordability and all the things we advocate for. Okay. For well-being. We have to figure out with AI now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're mastering the process. And as you're mastering your process, and the tech is getting mastered over here, and then it's easy. You don't have to program it. You just download it and you start to use it, and you use it with other people, and it comes over time. And then it's a healthier connection to that alchemical change of where you can use the tech, and that you're not overwhelmed on something like social media. It's not the same thing. If you're scrolling the endless Facebook wall of someone dancing, or somebody, mad at their neighbors, or somebody's played a salad, or whatever it is, taking pictures of the neighbors' cars for whatever reason, that's so way out of control, whatever your algorithm starts to look like, you're all over the place. With something like Integrate, you are sharing the continuity, you're sharing a safer space, and you're going to be in a different mental state, and you're not going to feel withdrawn or painful after, or tired or something like that. It's just totally different. And then you can set your times that you're on this, so your focus is in a healthier mindset.
Yeah, and there, and with the, just all the age of just, all the different, cyber, bullying and things like that. Like sometimes the social media is very, um, is not a safe space for people at all, or they feel like they can get sucked into things that don't serve them well, and that's where like the app is great because it's calm, and like we did earth tones on purpose, and it can be a space where you can go again, get those needs met, which maybe in 2017 I used to have people be like, I'm taking a Facebook break, I'll be back soon, but you're not losing, like you're not, and I was used to be like, okay, you don't have to do that anymore. Like we had a youth who is off of all social media just so she can heal from some stuff. She told me last week, she was like, I go in there and I just feel so grateful that I can still get like access to everybody, in a quieter space, isn't interrupted by, the things that have contributed to my trauma and pain.
And you're not nursing that. You're not just kind of nursing or putting a band-aid on that pain, because it will retarget certain things. And in a sense that it's made things bad, but it's made, AI and social media have made things better because you can use these tools free, and you can learn to use one or two tools in a healthy manner for your business and your connection. And you don't have to plug in all the time. And then when you're talking about bullying, it's like these keyboard warriors. People would not say that to my face, and I know that. So it's like, what are you saying? Are you
Right.
okay? And it's up to us to start asking people, uh, did you realize what you put in the group, or how snappy you were, or,
Right.
in a sense, you're calling it out and saying, hey, let's call a little attention to this. Are you feeling all right? Because when you're on the internet, you're not replying in a healthy way.
Right.
So let's not do this. If and how do we heal that? So, and it's just what it mimics is life,
Mhm.
because when we're home with our families or are working with our friends, are we saying, hey, and people didn't do this to me, Nicole, I don't want to, in coaching, it was like, you were just in a bad mood. Was I in a bad mood? Did you come to me and say, hey, do you need a hug? Are you okay? Is there something I'm missing? Nobody said that to me.
Right.
So it was like, oh, you're just always da 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 da, and it's like,
Right.
was I, or was I just being me? That's just the way that I am.
Right.
So we have to accept and find people the way they are, and not think about that we're hiding behind maybe people are hiding behind a different mask instead of the keyboard, and they're bringing that into that space. And so let's be in healthier spaces and start to see that earlier. And when you have a good group and a culture, especially in the integrate app, when you have a healthier culture, everybody becomes different people, and the energy is cyclical and beautiful, and people want to come in.
Absolutely. And I think that that's the big thing is, it's culture and, culture. And that goes back to like, I can't believe all my instructional design stuff is coming out, all my diatribe stuff is coming out. But like when you have good training that actually morphs behavior, and you have space to, we call it community practice. I know Elizabeth Weber is a great person to follow on LinkedIn to go deeper into that. This is some of her theory. But when you have a space where you don't just learn something and like click boxes and then we go away, and we have a culture that practices the things that we are learning, then you can put out a really solid product like an app to make that possible.
I love that, because that does get, when we're goes back to business, and saying like, hey, if you have a healthy community that's supporting you, like if you have a LinkedIn community and they support you and they comment and they look for your stuff to really edify you.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. We are not the one person. This bring home the bacon, fry it up in the pan, that whole, I know it's a way old song, but as women, to say I can do everything, okay, that's fine. But if you look at it as a leader, let's start to delegate those little tasks, and find ways to do that, and find good groups that support us. And so if you're a coach and you're in business and you're looking for a platform that you can work with, that has great people that have morals and ethics, and want to be more healing, and more positive for growth, in a healthier expansion, and looking for long term, because
Mhm.
you're looking for long term partnerships with people, which is so what we need right now, is that healthy relationship. And that's for the people that work with you as coaches, and the clients that come in. And I think that's so beautiful what you do in this space. And so I'm going to leave the last words for you, or anything you want to say, or where people can find you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've said everything I say. So yeah, so the best way to get a hold of us is at let'sintegrate.live. www.let'sintegrate.live, and you can see everything there. You can download the app, you can listen to our own podcast called Empathy by Design, where we talk about all the things we actually just talked about. We talk about how we build and hold space with an empathic um perspective, whether it's holding space with each other, because it's all design based. Because I've said several times, my background's in design. I have my background in BFA. I have a BFA, and then I was also an instructional designer, and it follows you everywhere you go. But it's how we hold space, and it's also how we also are with technology too, right? So you can kind of hear us a little bit about that, and you can book, if you don't like the app, you can always book on our website too, because I've worked in accessibility for such a long time that I know that's a weird, and usability for such a long time, so that's a thing. So go there and you can like get to know our vibe and like what we're about. It's going to be an echo here, as we're really about making sure that entrepreneurs and small business members and teams can have a space where they can learn to again, go into their human-centered values from a trauma-informed lens, and also have a place to grow and scale in the public eye in the app. So
Oh, I love that. And all the information for Julie and the Integrate app will be below, whether you're on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, that it will be out there. All the information will be connected. And absolutely. And she's going to have some great stuff. And it was a pleasure to have you at the Summit Control Alt Scale. And I've learned so much. And I love this, how open you are. And it's taken a lot of time for nerds to be able to communicate. And I think this healing community, along with that, gives us the ability to kind of speak up and to stand up and shine and stand out. And thank you so much for connecting with me. Awesome.
thank you so much. I appreciate being here.